Do you recall the most famous reindeer of all? Or, more specifically, do you recall the sequel to the Rankin and Bass Christmas special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer? I have no means of knowing your answer. And, either way, we're going to be talking about 1976's Rudolph's Shiny New Year. This special was brought to you by the same minds that brought you the original Rudolph special, and pretty much every other Rankin and Bass special. The eponymous Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, as well as writer Romeo Muller and composer Johnny Marks, best known for writing the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. And although my hour of research didn't yield any answers as to why they decided to follow Rudolph up with a New Year's special, let's just say it's very chronological. Rudolph's Shiny New Year starts the very same foggy night where Rudolph led Santa's sleigh with his nose so bright, and now that the presents have been delivered and the day has been made merry, Santa decides to take a load off. That lasts all of 15 seconds, because an elf delivers a message from Santa's old friend, Father Time, who lets him know that Baby New Year has gone missing, and if he's not found, it's going to be December 31st forever. Pretty sweet deal if you only work one night a year, by the way. Anyways, because Santa is good at delegating, he pawns the task of tracking down Baby New Year to Rudolph, who is promptly kicked out the door into a snowstorm after literally saving Christmas. This special is narrated by the concept of Father Time, who's voiced by the legendary entertainer Red Skelton. You might know him for his paintings of clowns, or his 1941 radio show, The Rally Cigarette Program, or any number of other iconic things that I found on his Wikipedia and don't want to spend the next 10 minutes listing here. Father Time, who seems to care slightly more for Rudolph's safety, sends a clock soldier named General Ticker to help Rudolph navigate through the snowstorm and to the desert known as the Sands of Time. There, they are greeted by a separate time creature, also sent by Father Time, a camel named the Great Quarter Past 5. Presumably he's named for the time shown on the clock embedded in his hump. Don't get too bogged down with the details here, though. These characters are only going to be around for maybe another 2 minutes. As they pass through the desert, we're introduced to the tangible antagonist, Eon the Terrible, a vulture who is named Eon because he lives exactly one eon, and his eon is about up, meaning his life depends on capturing Baby New Year. And I don't know, y'all, I think he has a pretty good reason for not wanting the next year to come. Finally, Rudolph and his newly acquired gang arrive at the castle of Father Time. Did I say finally? I meant to say we're less than 7 minutes in and they easily completed a journey that would be an entire movie on its own, had there been any struggle to cross the entire North Pole and an entire desert in less than one night. Anyway, they get to the castle, and we get an abbreviated version of the big song, Have a Happy New Year, with a montage of New Year's traditions like the ball dropping and fireworks. Father Time welcomes them in with more exposition, and this one is a doozy. It turns out that to start a new year, Father Time has to pass down his crown onto a new Baby New Year, a baby whose whole life is contained to one calendar year. From January 1st to December 31st, he will go from an infant to an old man, in what I can only imagine to be one of the most depressing displays of mortality and the brevity of life ever documented in a stop-motion special aimed at children. Don't worry though, if the concept itself wasn't sad enough, they punctuate it with one of the most memorable and moving songs of the entire special, The Moving Finger Writes. A short ballad about how the time passes anyway, so you need to cherish it while you can, which is illustrated, again, by this baby becoming an old man in 12 months. The intangible antagonist in this special is definitely the passage of time. I remember this scene hitting me like a ton of bricks when I was 8, and Rudolph reminded me that one day, not only I, but everyone I love is going to die, and that the time I will be alive is actually incredibly short. This is perhaps the only interesting thing that this special does. Father Time doesn't let us sit with this existential dread for very long, because he rubs it in immediately by letting us know that everyone counts down this hypothetical man's last moments alive. Then again, it also feels like there's something kind of beautiful about those moments on New Year's Eve, when everyone is filled with the hope of a new year yet to come. You know, with the baby's potential to grow up and be anything being a metaphor for the new year. Real powerful stuff. Anyways, this year's baby new year, Happy, has run away because everyone laughed at him for having big ears. Does this setup sound familiar to anyone? Father Time suggests that maybe he ran away to the archipelago of last years, where it turns out that all of the years that were alluded to have died at the end of their reign 45 seconds ago are actually alive and well on their own islands, where a time loop of their year goes on forever. Kind of takes the sting out of the whole cherishing every moment thing when you can literally relive time forever on these islands. Father Time sends Rudolph off with a song called Turn Back the Years, about how you can literally relive the past and enjoy the simple life. Though a chorus does hold him accountable and suggests that maybe you should remember the bad stuff too, and that maybe life is kind of short actually. Kinda seems like we just had a song that said that, but sure, whatever I guess. Rudolph sets sail to the Sea of Auld Syne, where he's attacked by Eon. And again, Eon is kinda justified, seeing as he's going to die if Rudolph finds this baby. Luckily, Rudolph is saved by a whale with a clock in his tail, named Big Ben. Like the clock, the famous one. Get it? Big Ben has Rudolph climb inside him, and Rudolph is apparently Jonah-coded? Is Rudolph's mission to find Happy Christian? Anyways, they back out of that decision immediately and have Rudolph climb on top. He arrives at the island of 1 million BC, where dinosaurs roam along the earth beside people. We also get our next musical number here. It's Raining Sunshine, about how if you smile when you're sad, everything gets better immediately. It turns out that Happy has been to 1 Million's island, and in fact rolled up and started saving other babies and just generally doing good, but his hat popped off and everyone laughed him back into the ocean. OM insists that they didn't mean anything by it and offers to help Rudolph search the other islands for baby New Year. Big Ben sails them through the ocean while they tick off islands for various reasons, like people being too busy building pyramids, or discovering America. And for some reason, Rudolph says this:
1965 was too noisy.
I wonder what happened in 1965. Hey Rudolph, what the f***? They finally roll up to the island of 1023, where apparently all fairy tales were real and happening. Father Time drops this bomb in a cutaway, then sings another musical number called What a Wonderful World We Live In, about how life is better when you believe in fairy tales. The gang questions various fairy tale characters about whether they've seen Happy, and everyone says no. And also, they aren't smart enough to look behind them, because Happy is at one point 5 feet from their faces. Anyways, while Rudolph trudges on, Happy relives the tale of Goldilocks. But the family decides to take him in instead of being mad, because Baby Bear needs a friend. And obviously, this strange human baby doesn't belong to anyone, and it's fine to keep him as a pet. Let's not question it. Of course, the bliss of a new home doesn't last long for Happy, because Baby Bear and him are playing Knight and Dragon, and after Happy defeats Baby Bear, he naturally has to doff his cap. Well, not naturally. This annoying-ass Baby Bear goads Happy into it, and then the entire family laughs him off the island. And I don't want to rip on actors for coming up with a unique character voice, but I'm just going to let you all marinate on 10 seconds of this Baby Bear talking, so you can understand how grating all 2 minutes of this guy is.
Now I must be the dragon. Now you slay me, Go ahead, hit me. Not too hard, but you hit me, go ahead.
When Happy leaves the island, he's picked up by Eon, who promises to take great care of him. Of course, being there at the right time and place, Rudolph and the gang see this and make chase. And, conveniently, Eon drops the baby, sending him parachuting into the distance with his huge ears, hat. According to Father Time, Happy drifted in the wind for a full 24 hours. And I just want to commend this baby's upper body strength. I would have been dead in 30 seconds. Tops. If I had to do a full bodyweight hang for my life. Happy finally lands on the island of 1776 and meets Mr. 1776, who goes by Sev and is also just Benjamin Franklin. He tells Happy that every day on his island is the 4th of July, and we get a song about it. Go America! Go 4th of July parade! And, of course, everyone knows that you have to remove your hat to show respect for the flag, and Happy is once again laughed off an island. And of course, Rudolph and his traveling companions show up too late to get to Happy. But with just enough time to watch him be carried off by Eon again. Though I'm not entirely sure how they managed to watch it, because moments later, Sev, says it's night and they can't see anything. Thank goodness for Rudolph's shiny nose, though, because he's able to guide them to the island of No Name, where Eon apparently lives as an outcast, alone, and waiting for his inevitable death at the end of the Eon. Kind of reminds you of a different island of misfits Rudolph was much more keen on helping. This is probably the most strife they face journeying between islands. We know this because Rudolph sings a song called Have a Little Faith in Me when everyone else starts getting discouraged. And also, they immediately find this elusive island and start climbing a mountain in the dark so they can get to Eon's nest. This attempt isn't successful, and Eon causes an avalanche that turns Rudolph and the years into snowballs. Eon takes this time to gloat to Happy about how that was his last hope, and he was going to have to live the rest of time as Eon's slave. This is disregarding the fact that Happy seemed to have went willingly with him in the first place, and I think this is a last-ditch effort to make Eon, actually evil, and not just a guy who doesn't want to die. Don't worry though, for the second time in the last quarter of this movie, Rudolph's nose saves the day. He melts through the snowball he's been trapped in and leaves the dead weight behind so he can go rescue Happy. Rudolph arrives in Eon's nest and begins to reassure Happy that it's okay to be different, that he knows what it's like to be different. He does this by, and you'll never guess, showing Happy that his nose glows. And then he gets embarrassed and lets all the trees and wildlife on the mountain sing the penultimate song of the special, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. That's right, one of the songs in Rudolph's Shiny New Year is just one of the songs from the original special with a new 2D animated music video. Invigorated by Rudolph's unabashed confidence in being different, Happy reveals his ears to Rudolph, and Rudolph laughs in his face. Kinda seems like a cop-out after all the be yourself stuff. Eon wakes up, immediately sees Happy's ears, and laughs so hard that he tumbles down the mountain and frees the ears. And also apparently doesn't die when the clock strikes midnight, which I think kind of means that laughing at Happy might be the secret to immortality. Unfortunately for everyone, it's too late, because it's already midnight on December 31st, and there is no way they can make it back to Father Time's castle before the last ding of the clock. Just kidding, that useless Santa rolls up in the last minute and takes them back in his sleigh so they can ring in the new year. And at last, we get the final song, a full-length rendition of Have a Happy New Year. So, that was Rudolph's Shiny New Year, and I'm not entirely sure it put me in the mood for a Happy New Year. But let's try to turn over a new leaf anyways. What did this special get right? I thought this special had a lovely atmosphere. It had a lot of night scenes that were beautifully lit with a dreamy quality. When they journey through the desert or climb Eon's mountain, it's got this sort of moody and atmospheric thing going on. Even Father Time's castle was beautiful in kind of an eerie way, with a large room filled with clocks, a throne made of gears with little birds that cuckoo. They're physical manifestations of passing time. And this could be a me thing, but I find the ticking of clocks to be a little unsettling. Personal anecdote time, but I bought a cute little clock to put in my room, and I had to take the batteries out because the ticking made me so anxious to listen to. Speaking of listening, I think the special has one real standout song, The Moving Finger Writes. Father Time sings this song to Rudolph to explain the importance of ringing in the new year. But if you were a child prone to bouts of melancholy, it probably sent you spiraling. In 90 seconds, it manages to capture both the beauty of time passing and the briefness of it all. This song reminds me that I'm just a drop in the ocean of existence, yet takes the time to let me know that that's okay. And while I'm praising this song, I'm going to praise the animation that accompanies it. It's the classic limited stop motion, yet the sparse set design and simple concept of watching this baby New Year become a man by literally passing through a hall of calendars while the pendulum of time swings behind him is exactly enough. If you engage with nothing else from Rudolph's Shiny New Year, take the 2 minutes to look up and listen to this song. It's kind of a gem. Anyways, that's where the stuff I really like ends. The rest of this special is more or less a mess. It's the same length as its predecessor, yet it uses the time in a much less interesting way. I'm not saying the original Rudolph is exactly a masterclass in storytelling, but at least they take a little time to set up Rudolph's traveling companions. Herbie is a character with a defined and unique goal. He wants to become a dentist. Yukon Cornelius is a character with a defined and unique goal. He wants to strike gold. They're all outcasts who find they'll be able to grow and reach their goals by working together. In Rudolph's Shiny New Year, he has a total of 6 traveling companions, and pretty much nothing sticks out about their personalities, wants, or motivations. In fact, the first 2 characters Rudolph travels with are dropped the second they accomplish their goal of getting to Father Time's castle. And I'm going to remind you, that is 7 minutes in. The rest of them are just personifications of years, which is fine and unique enough as a concept, but when you take them out of their personalized environments, there's nothing interesting about them. They are all equally helpful men, intent on finding happy. They just happen to look a little funny. And speaking of looking funny, this special has Rudolph just kind of suck in the end. Like, he spends all of this time waxing poetic about how he wishes he could have talked to Happy and relate his experience of looking different. And when he finally does, he still laughs in Happy's face anyway. Rudolph might be the only being on the planet who would truly get Happy's feelings of isolation and being made fun of, but ultimately, he decides to tell this baby that it's okay that people laugh at him for looking funny, because apparently being laughed at is Happy's unique and special skill. I get Rudolph is probably a teenager in the grand scale of emotional development, but I think most teenagers could pick out a simple storybook moral like, don't laugh at someone because they look different. The bad moral and weak story might just be because they were trudging a path with no trail. Because who in their right mind takes a look at Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and thinks, what if we put him in a non-Christmas special? It's not real, it can't hurt you. It's not real, it can't hurt you. Anyways, how did Rudolph's Shiny New Year stack up? I guess I'd give it a 2.5 out of 5. I don't think it's good, well-paced, or super interesting, but it's nostalgic, and sometimes that's all I ask of something.